Well, the Hawaiian forest is very resilient, and in that way the alala are very resilient. So just to warn you, they may not like your camera. Our team was able to get out here when it was safe, and we saw no ill effects for the birds. They weathered the storm very well. We have a hardy set of birds, and they've shown over the past year almost, being out here through lots of winter weather, that they survive really well in wet conditions, and they're able to fend for themselves. We've also seen over time the birds have become much better at being able to seek shelter in the forest, at finding those natural nooks and crevices where they can hide from the rain. And that seems to have done them well, because when we did find them after the storm, they were looking dry and healthy. If birds get really wet and water gets underneath their feathers in contact with their body, then they can start to get cold. And especially if you have prolonged rain where there's not an ability for birds to dry out, then you could see ill effects due to not being able to keep up their body temperature. Along with everyone else on the island, saw the warnings coming in ahead of time, and among ourselves as a team, we prepared for the potential of not being able to get out here and see the birds. As of now, we still are providing supplemental food for the birds, so we wanted to make sure that they wouldn't be going for days without food if we were unable to get up to the site. And then we also made sure we checked in with our local partners about the state of roads, and communicated as well about where we needed to be able to get access to the birds using alternative locations if needed. So it really, I think, showed the team effort of our conservation program, in that we were able to weather the storm with no real issue whatsoever. We were thrilled, as you might imagine. When we came up, before we approach the forest, we always check for all of the birds' radio signals, because that's our first indication to see whether or not they are around in the area. And from that first check, we knew that they were all okay. It then took us a little bit to find them all in the forest, as it usually does, but we were able to get eyes on every bird and see that they were doing well and in good condition. Well, what surprised us actually is that they were behaving perfectly normally. As they usually do, they move about in small groups, and throughout the day they have quite fluid motions, so they'll spend some time with a couple of individuals, and maybe one or two might go off on their own, but then they come back at certain times a day to forage and interact with each other. And they were flying around and vocalizing just as normal. So from that, we don't think that they suffered any real ill effects of the storm, and that also, they seemed to pick up right after the rain stopped, and we're fine again. No, it is amazing how well the soils here drain. And I think that just shows also what benefit the forest can provide, because it really does have this natural function of being able to draw water away from pooling in certain areas. Well, the entire island have seen some level of impact since this has been a large volcanic eruption. However, the acute impacts have really only been located in the Puna district, and then up actually at the Kilauea crater. Since we are quite a number of miles from both of those areas, the only real effects that we had up here had to do with VOG, so the sulfur dioxide that the volcano emits. But prior to the increase in volcanic eruptions, we actually did experience days with sulfur dioxide up here regularly. So there wasn't that much of a change in our day-to-day operations. Our team was very aware of the volcanic activity, and we were consistently monitoring the ongoing conditions. But really, we were just trying to take a proactive preparedness approach, and when we needed to leave the field due to there being poor air quality, we left.